For years, Marjorie Taylor Greene built her political identity on chaos, conflict, and confrontation. She was the loudest voice, the most aggressive fighter, the one who seemed to thrive where others backed away. But suddenly, out of nowhere, everything flipped. A single post from Greene revealed a version of her no one had ever seen before, frustrated, emotional, almost pleading for a break from the endless noise. And what shocked people even more was that she wasn't aiming at Democrats or liberals or the media. Her frustration was directed at her own world, her own supporters, and the political machine she once defended with everything she had. Something had pushed her to the edge, and the truth behind it wasn't just surprising, it was explosive. It all started with a message that blindsided everyone following Greene. She wrote that social media had become toxic, manipulated, and dominated by forces that didn't care about truth or reality. According to her, accounts were being run by foreign operators, political strategists, and paid influencers who shaped the conversation every minute of the day. She warned people that most of what they saw online wasn't real. And coming from someone who lived online, who built her power through viral outrage and nonstop posting, this sudden shift felt almost surreal. Greene insisted that real life didn't exist in the endless scroll of posts and comments. It existed outside, with real people, real conversations, and real work. The tone wasn't angry. It wasn't triumphant. It was tired. It was the kind of exhaustion you hear from someone who finally realized the place they lived in wasn't safe anymore. Her supporters didn't understand it. Her critics didn't believe it. And everyone else wondered what could possibly push someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene to suddenly turn against the very arena she once dominated with pride. But the answer would reveal itself faster than anyone expected. The moment conservative influencer Mike Cernovich responded to Greene's tweet, the situation took a sharp turn. All he said was, "You need to serve out your full term." A simple sentence, a mild statement, nothing outrageous. But Greene reacted with intensity that felt completely out of proportion. She lashed out at him, accusing him of hiding behind a screen while she faced danger in the real world. She talked like someone who felt betrayed, someone who believed people no longer understood what she was going through. She even suggested she was at risk in ways most politicians never talk about publicly, hinting at threats surrounding her. Her tone wasn't just defensive. It sounded like fear mixed with anger. This wasn't the calculated, controlled messaging of a political strategist. This was raw emotion, coming from someone who felt cornered. Observers could feel the tension in her words. It raised a question that spread like wildfire across the political internet. If she's reacting like this, what's happening behind the scenes? And then it became clear that Mike Cernovich wasn't the source of her meltdown. He was just the unlucky spark that hit a pile of gasoline waiting to explode. The real story was far bigger. Greene revealed that Donald Trump, the man she supported without hesitation, had turned on her publicly, not in a private phone call, not behind closed doors, publicly in front of millions. Trump withdrew his support. He mocked her. He pushed for opponents to challenge her seat. And that single act shattered everything Greene built her brand around. The man she defended, the leader she rallied behind, the figure she aligned herself with, suddenly treated her as disposable. In politics, betrayals happen all the time, but when it comes from the most powerful figure in your own movement, it doesn't feel like politics. It feels personal. Greene claimed that after Trump's attack, private security teams contacted her to warn about escalating threats. She said the rhetoric against her was turning dangerous, and that she feared people close to Trump's circle were fueling anger that could get her hurt. Whether every detail was accurate or exaggerated didn't matter. What mattered was that Greene believed she had been thrown to the wolves. She had watched Trump unleash fury on others for years, but she had never imagined she'd be the target. And in that moment, everything she supported for so long suddenly became frightening. The energy she once encouraged now felt like a threat aimed directly at her. She finally understood the dark side of the movement she had once championed. As Greene portrayed herself as someone in danger, the internet reminded her of a moment she wanted everyone to forget: her own video from January 5th. In that clip, she proudly boasted about a planning meeting at the White House, hyping up the objections to the election certification. She claimed the election was stolen. She promised a landslide win narrative. She urged supporters to pressure lawmakers. It suddenly became impossible to ignore the irony. Greene had spent years fueling the anger that made political threats common. She had encouraged emotional chaos, pushed conspiratorial narratives, and framed political battles as life-or-death struggles. People remembered her celebrating the energy that later spiraled into dangerous territory. Now she didn't like the consequences. Now she said the environment was unsafe. Now she warned that rhetoric leads to danger. But the reality was that Greene helped build the very mechanism that now frightened her. Her past wasn't just catching up, it was swallowing her whole. While Greene was fighting these battles publicly, the Republican Party had already made up its mind privately. Leaders were distancing themselves quietly. Some conservatives who once defended her began ignoring her completely. Others treated her like a landmine, dangerous to stand near, unpredictable to support. Word spread inside the party: Greene wasn't useful anymore. Her controversies brought noise but not strategy. Her influence attracted headlines but not stability. A movement that once relied on her fire now viewed her as a liability. And when Trump turned his back, many in the GOP treated it as permission to do the same. The silence around her became louder each day. Allies who once celebrated her now pretended they barely knew her. She wasn't just losing support, she was becoming politically irrelevant. And for someone who built her life around attention, the fading spotlight might have been the most painful blow of all. While the right abandoned her, Democrats didn't react with sympathy. They reacted with a kind of exhausted irony. When Representative Jasmine Crockett spoke about the danger surrounding modern politics, people realized something obvious. Everything Greene was complaining about, Democrats had been reporting for years. Crockett explained the reality of threats, online harassment, manipulated social media ecosystems, and digital mobs fueled by misinformation. She described bot farms, emotional manipulation, and foreign influence. These weren't new ideas. These were problems Democrats had lived with repeatedly. Greene dismissed those concerns for years. She mocked the people who expressed fear. She encouraged the intensity that created those threats. And now she was insisting the danger was real only because she had become the target. It was a moment of perfect political irony, the kind that doesn't need a punchline. But even after all the chaos, Greene made one statement that turned shock into outrage. She suggested she now understood how women in high-profile exploitation scandals must have felt when powerful men left them unprotected. The internet exploded instantly. People were stunned. She compared her political fallout to situations far more traumatic. Others questioned whether she was trying to paint herself as a victim to earn sympathy. Some wondered if she was hinting at deeper issues she couldn't say openly. Regardless of the motive, the reaction was universal. The statement crossed a line. It shifted the conversation from political drama to controversy surrounding her judgment. It made her look desperate. It made her look cornered. And it fueled speculation that she wasn't just under pressure, she was unraveling. For someone who once projected strength and certainty, the sudden emotional spiral felt alarming even to people who didn't like her. Marjorie Taylor Greene's final pivot didn't come with fireworks or a dramatic speech. It came with a quiet but deliberate attempt to rewrite her entire political identity. After realizing she was no longer protected by the movement she once served, Greene began reshaping herself into something new, a lone warrior abandoned by the very people who benefited from her loyalty. She started claiming she had fought harder than anyone else, that she had taken on battles others were too scared to face, that she stood on the front lines while everyone else hid behind their screens. This new narrative wasn't just about strength, it was about survival. Greene understood that once a political machine decides someone is no longer useful, the The only thing left to do is create an identity strong enough to stand outside it. In her version of the story, she wasn't a controversial figure who pushed dangerous rhetoric. She was a misunderstood fighter punished for speaking too loudly. She painted herself as someone targeted not because she was reckless, but because she was fearless. She wanted supporters to see her as the last honest soldier inside a corrupt, self-serving empire. But the truth beneath the surface was far more complicated. Greene wasn't being punished for being too brave. She was being punished for becoming unpredictable. A movement built on control cannot tolerate someone who stops following orders. And once Trump turned his back on her, the rest of the party didn't hesitate to follow. By casting herself as a lone warrior, Greene hoped to regain relevance. She hoped people would see her as the victim of a system that rewards chaos but destroys anyone who loses their usefulness. And while that framing might help her politically, it doesn't change the reality. She isn't fighting against a corrupt machine. She's fighting the very chaos she helped unleash. Marjorie Taylor Greene's political unraveling didn't arrive with a single headline or a dramatic public collapse. It arrived slowly, almost quietly, like a storm gathering far out at sea before anyone notices the waves rising. For years, she built her identity around confrontation, disruption, and absolute loyalty to a movement that thrived on chaos. She defended the loudest voices, embraced the most divisive battles, and poured fuel on conflicts that pushed American politics into darker territory. But the moment the same energy turned against her, she finally saw what so many had warned about from the beginning. Her downfall wasn't triggered by one feud or one betrayal. It was the result of a system that only values people as long as they're useful. The moment Trump withdrew his support, the same machine that she fed and protected no longer saw a purpose for her. And in that instant, Greene discovered a truth her opponents had known for years. Chaos doesn't stay loyal. Once unleashed, it spreads uncontrollably. It can be aimed outward, but eventually it circles back, searching for a new target. This time, that target happened to be her. Greene is now trying to rebuild herself as a fighter abandoned by her own side, a survivor standing alone while everyone around her retreats. But her reinvention doesn't erase the past. It doesn't change the fact that she once celebrated the same machinery that now grinds against her. It doesn't undo the role she played in shaping the environment she now fears. Her story isn't just about political strategy or personal conflict. It's a warning about what happens when a movement built on outrage is allowed to grow without limits. Because sooner or later, the fire doesn't just burn the enemy. It burns the people who lit it in the first place.